How have you been, man?
I've been good. I've been practicing, working on what I want to be, who I want to be.
How was your holidays?
Yeah, they're all right. I don't like holidays. My personally, I don't know what I try to pin it down what I don't like about them. I think I don't like them because I feel put upon. I feel like I'm told to act or feel a certain way, and I don't like that. I like feeling and acting the way I want to feel, not how society or something is trying to tell me to do. And I don't like my schedule being mandated and interrupted. And, that being said, you try to make the best out of it. I really appreciated the time with my family and I was really grateful this year. So, but I just don't like holidays much. They're just really artificial and weird to me. That's just me personally. Some people love them.
No, man, I actually feel the same exact way. Obviously I can't behave that way because I have
Yeah.
three young children.
Yeah.
So we must play the game.
Yep.
But I think my unhappiness with the holidays, it's not a bah humbug sort of vibe. And I don't feel like yours is that either.
No.
It's sort of an understanding that they're artificial, they're made up. They do have origins in certain ancient traditions, but nowadays they're really just manufacturing money, manufacturing plastic, manufacturing trash, putting pressure upon people like you just spoke of, whether it's to keep a schedule or spend a certain amount of money or it kills me, all the pictures in matching pajamas and all these things that used to be fun, but now if they're becoming an obligation or they're becoming expected, and then it's like you go out, you're spending the money, you're stuck in traffic, it's not fun. That's not fun to an adult.
Plus the fact that everybody that has lost people that are close to them, that's all they seem to remember on the holidays. And and it's like it's this time of year that tortures some people. And I'm like, what are we doing this for? It's like they want to observe the holiday, but part of observing it is remembering everything you've lost. And that's like, I don't know. And plus, I guess in an esoteric way, what really bothers me is, it's almost like, let's just be really nice one day of the year. Let's be grateful one day of the year. Let's do these things one day. Let me tell you, I love you one day of the year. Let me treat you special one day of the year. And man, that's not enough. That's not enough. And I'm not saying the people that do that don't love or treat or cherish each day, but I think it's just like anything. We want to make everything on a checklist that we can check off. We want to make everything easy to do. That way, we're not really present in it. We just checked it off. Okay, vacation with the family, check off. A holiday. Hey, everybody, I love you. Check off. Boom. Valentine's Day. Hey, baby, I appreciate you. Check off. Bam. And it's like that's just putting our mind on autopilot and just going along with what instead of being in the moment each day and trying to appreciate our partner that day and trying to love our family every day and trying to be grateful every day. I feel like it's easy to just put something on a calendar and then check that off. That's
No,
how I feel.
I absolutely agree with a lot of the things you said, and it'll give me a perfect start point for this show. And thank you all for being here on Creating Greatness Podcast, talking to Tony Spencer about our true feelings about the holidays. First off, it is important that we're here doing this because all the things that you stated related to mental health is absolutely true. A lot of people's toughest times are during these holidays. And another aspect of it is I feel the same. I like to celebrate every day. I like to live my life to the fullest every day. I don't want to just select certain days that are days where I'm going to celebrate life, this precious gift that I was given, and then also to celebrate it in a way that I don't see fit. A lot of commercials or media their idea of a wonderful holiday is over consuming and eating until you feel stuffed. You got to pop your belt another notch, drinking alcohol. And then I just don't find that fun at all. I want to wake up the next day and be productive and be intense and be focused and be driven and pursuing my goals for the year in 2024. So for me, the idea of staring at some fireworks, it's New Year's, and drinking until I'm, in a stupor, that's not my idea of a good time anymore. I'm 44 years old. I'm not 16 when I found those things fun. So the very idea of a lot of that is just rubs me all the wrong way. But I'm going to tell you what, we're going to move on because we're getting very, very bah humbugish. But I do want to impress those ideas upon people to make you think outside the box. And this is in no way to attack your ideology or attack your belief system, but this is my show. Those are my opinions, and I believe that it's valid. And if you really do some inspection upon it, you'll find that some of those things are to be true. Now, it's really funny that last time me and you spoke, I had this wonderful piece of envelope that I wrote all these wonderful notes on about all the amazing things that we were talking about. And now, about a week later, I stare at it in complete confusion. I can't figure out one of those things. So we're going to take a bit of a different direction. And despite all the humbugishness that we've displayed here early on in the show, I am excited. I am excited that it's a new year. And I don't know why. It's just made it so far in 2023. I'm very excited about 2024. I've also been listening and looking and paying attention to the signs, and I believe that it's going to be a very amazing year in human history. And I don't just mean in the scope of my life or Tony's life. I mean in your life. I mean in everyone's life. So I think it's of the utmost importance that we move through this year consciously. If not disciplined and diligent and focused like myself, because it's me. That's what I want to do, just consciously moving exactly in the direction that you want to move in without getting distracted, sidetracked from emotions and external events and all the nonsense that they're trying to feed you. Paying attention to you, getting in tune with who you are and the universal energies that flow through you that will indicate to you what exactly it is that you should be doing. And that's what we're talking about on Creating Greatness. That's why we're excited about this year. That's why I'm here. Was here yesterday podcasting. I'm here today podcasting, and we're going to continue on all throughout 2024. Part of this excitement stems from something that I've been thinking about an awful lot. And I think that it's applicable to everyone because everyone in their life, no matter who you are, where you're at, what financial level you're on, you've experienced some adversity. Some of us more so than others, but everyone can at least relate to some moment of their life that was severe adversity where they didn't want to go on, where they weren't sure if they were going to go on, maybe not even sure that they would make it out. So as I'm doing this podcast with CL The Source yesterday, the New Year's Eve edition, where we went over all the biggest lessons that we learned in 2023 and how we plan to win here in 2024. He gets to going, we get to going about my story, about my past, my drug addiction, my criminal thinking, and all the ways that I used to degrade myself and this world. And he says to me, and it is a compliment, and I take it as a compliment, but I also take it with a grain of salt, is, man, your story's so amazing. Your story's so powerful. Well, you know what I'm thinking, and maybe it's this new David Goggins book that I'm reading, and we're going to talk about that as well. Wifey got me his new book, Never Finished, and I've just read the first 3 chapters, and it's very good. It's very good. But I think of my story, and I think, so what? And then what? Am I supposed to be celebrated because I quit doing drugs? Because I didn't go back to jail for the 5th time? Am I supposed to be amazed at my ability to have a normal life and have a car and a house and a successful family? That's basic, man. And then what? And then what? And I want you to ask yourself this question, and I want you to answer me at creatinggreatnesspodcast@gmail.com. And then what? What have you been through that you were amazed you made it out? People were amazed you made it out, made it through. But you said, no, and then what, man? What's next? It's that philosophy of continuous improvement that I learned from Lean Six Sigma, that everywhere you're at is a starting point. So if you're a millionaire, that's a starting point to a billionaire. For me, I'm a thousandaire. It's a starting point to 100,000aire. Well, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Tony? We're real excited here at Creating Greatness about this new year, man. You can hear it in my voice. I'm stumbling and everything. That is the energy that I'm carrying forth in this new year with.
Yeah, man. I'm really focused on what works. So, I've been really focusing on specific things that I'm doing in my life that actually produce results towards where I want to be. So having a clear idea of where I want to be, right? So I think you're right, to look at my past and either be a victim of it or to take it or to be happy about whatever my successes were. It's like that's the usefulness of that is very limited. I used to be growing up, I had a really hard time in my social groups. I was a real outcast, and people were always attacking me, and I was very nervous and scared in public. And I had all these weird things where I picked my hair out and I made all these weird noises. I was so nervous, and people were always beating me up. It was nonstop terror. So I grew up that was really in my head. But at some point, I had to say, it wasn't me. It was terrible that it happened, right? I learned all these lessons about it. I didn't want to be that kind of person. I was really angry at those people. I really had all these fantasies about revenge. And then at some point I had to say, wait a minute, is that going to define my whole life? Is that going to be me forever? I'm the victim. I'm the guy that was I had to start to see myself as I had the potential to be a bully, or I had the potential to be bullied. I believe that we are all unique. We're not unique in the world. Every one of us has the potential for good and evil, to treat people nicely, to be the bully, to be sometimes we're the victim, sometimes we're the victor. It's like I was part of everybody else. And I didn't want to see myself as separate anymore. So I didn't want to identify myself as this victim, But at the same time, I had some really great successes in my life, things that I was kind of good at, that kind of made me excel. I was really good at telling stories. I was really good at playing music, and I kind of identified myself as that. But the thing is that those successes, is that all I am? Like you said, is the what then? What now? Am I going to just think of myself as that person? And that was, in the past, I achieved this, I achieved that. Is that all I'm ever going to do? Is that who I really am? It's like you have to let those things. I feel like you have to kind of take them for what they are, learn from them, and then set them aside, because I'm a new person. And if you want to get really technical, I'm not even the same person as I was before. Honestly, I'm not even the same physical matter. Don't we regenerate, grow new cells? Like I heard almost every 7 years, I'm not sure if that's true, but every 7 years, we're literally a new person because we regenerate all of our cells. Like, am I really even the same person I used to be? Aren't I a new person right now? And I don't want to be, I think it's valuable. Obviously, we learn from the past, our successes and our mistakes, but I don't want that to define me. You got to kind of put it aside, put it past you, and then kind of choose where I want to go now. I don't want to be defined about who I was, good or bad, back in the past. I want to be who I want to be now. I want to work towards a new thing. So if that's what you're talking about, I'm very excited this year. And I really feel like, how I look at the past, successes and failures, I don't even know if there can be successes and failures. I think they're just experiences that make us who we are. And I think that a lot of it's what the story we tell ourselves about it. And plus, to throw something else in the mix, we don't even know if our memory is that good. How accurate is our memory? Some neuroscientists say maybe not even 70% accurate. It's not like we're actually seeing a actual representation of what happened. We're only seeing it from our viewpoint and our perspective. And we don't even know, say if we were younger, we had limited intelligence, limited knowledge, limited experience, how we saw the past. Who knows how accurate it is? We look at it now from in more mature eyes. We don't know. What could have been seemed some terrible thing might have been the very best thing we could have been going through. I guess you got to, like Watts would say, Ellen, you got to trust the universe. You got to trust that that's what was going on, and now you are where you're at, and there's no sense of riding on your laurels, of your successes, or wallowing in your failures. And I love being able to let that go and be a new person. Just let it all. It's gone. I like that a lot.
I think that you're correct in the assumption that the way that we view our past in our own mind, is it really truth? Because there's so many lenses we could view it from. And I also would just remind everyone and encourage people, well, not encourage, I'll say it's beneficial for me that I do analyze my past. In fact, I go over my old episodes and listen to myself so that I can see where I made mistakes, because I want to get better. I said there. I don't want to do that. Oh, I got a little excited and I just stumbled over my words, just like I did a few minutes ago, because I let the energy get in and affect me. I want to remain stoic, stay calm. So the analyzation of the past is very beneficial for the future if you're doing it through that scope, that lens of analyzation, see what I can do better, what can I learn from it, how can I avoid doing this in the future. But once you've played the tape and you've gotten what you need from it, yeah, it's best to move on. And we're going to go ahead and do that now, because I wanted to talk to you about this Dave Goggins book that I'm reading. I know you're an avid reader, and it's something that you always bring to the table. It's why I always love having you on, many multitudes of reasons, but you always have a new book you're reading and great knowledge within. He starts out the book talking about an experiment that scientists performed on rats. So they did this experiment on rats, and I really pray for the rats. I mean, I'm not like some, like crazy person that doesn't want harm to any animals, because I eat meat now again, but I feel bad when they're testing on rats and they're just throwing them in a fish tank to see how long they can live. I mean, I just feel like that's awful, but neither here nor there. This was the book. This was what I'm reading, so I'm just explaining it to you as I was reading it. So they did a test on rats. They threw, 5-10 rats in a fish tank, see how long they could swim. So the very first time they swam for, like 15 minutes. Like, I'm just estimating numbers or paraphrasing it for the example on this podcast. The next time, before they put the rats in the tank, they held them, they stroked them, told them it was going to be okay, right? Put them in the tank. Some of these rats swam for 18 hours straight. And they scooped them out. They saved them. They saved them. They talked to them. They played nice with them. They saved them. And then when they put them back, they swam for 18 hours straight. So Dave Goggins was talking about the belief now that they could survive. That's a powerful thing within the human mind, and obviously the animal mind as well. We know we can make it out of the situation because we made it out before. So that belief in yourself. And that's what we're talking about here, man. All the adversity that you've made it through, everything you've faced, and you still stand and still survive and still strong right now, here in the present. You know you made it out of that, so you know you can make it out of anything. That's what he's trying to say, in my opinion. But I actually started thinking about a third option. And I think you'll have some thoughts about this, but if I'm wrong, I got a slew of topics to get. I get that, right? But I thought of even a more powerful force. I thought of it as my mind always does go. What if they believe that they were saved by God? What if that's why they were swimming for 18 hours now? Because they believe in God, that God saved them. Now, this is obviously theory. It's just me spitballing ideas. But how is anyone, including a scientist or David Goggins, to say what was in those rats' mind? Well, now they believe, they know that they can survive, or they know they're going to be saved, so they'll swim forever. So that's the power of belief, to push you past all limits. But what about when you really have exhausted all your physical and mental limits? The belief in God is going to carry you a lot further, in my opinion. So I thought it was an interesting third-party opinion on that experiment. What if? What are your thoughts?
That's interesting. I don't know what a rat might think, I don't know. There's different levels of consciousness. So I don't
All
know.
right. So
That's interesting in itself, but about faith in God and how far that can take you. Is that kind of the question?
how about that?
All right. Okay. So when I was practicing and I was really seeking for God as a Christian, and I would exhaust myself with study, where all I would read was the Bible. I would put all the other books aside. I would spend copious amounts of time in prayer, and anything that had anything to do with other than I thought, if I couldn't relate it to God or theology, I wouldn't even try to think about it. And I was pursuing that, and I was pursuing it, and I was looking at every one of my actions, my thoughts, my intentions, for a long time, for years, looking at that. And I found during those times, serving in all the different ministries I could serve in, in the jails and the prisons, on the streets, whatever. What's interesting is that the most amazing metaphysical, supernatural, godlike experiences I had were when when something happened outside of my intellectual understanding, to outside of my control. It's like I used to feel at the time that God would exhaust you with your own physical exertions, with your own mental mechanics, to a point where you realized that it was beyond your ability. And then God would demonstrate what he did outside of your own ability. And it kind of made you humble and inspired awe in what God was and what you weren't. And the awesomeness, and it wasn't a belittling process, because what it did was it made you realize that there is something in control outside of yourself, that the world is existing outside of you, that things are happening beyond your control, and that it's very freeing. It's a very freeing experience, because you start to realize that certain things are beyond your control. And so then you can basically only focus on what you can control and what you can do. And it gives you a better perspective of what you're doing with your life. And it does allow you, it takes a lot of the fear away, a lot of the anxiety, and allows you to move forward in a way that you couldn't before, even though in some ways you're using less effort, but smarter effort, more focused effort, because you just aren't focusing on things you can't control, and you're not focusing on ways that don't work. So it's like, always felt like God was letting you exhaust yourself with trying to conquer everything yourself, and letting you know that some things were beyond your control, and that you had to trust in him, and that was your faith, and that he could do things, that God could do things you couldn't do. And it really frees you from the burden of that everything is on you and everything is your responsibility. So I believe that part of having more faith in God is realizing that we don't control everything, and that we're brought to that point by exhausting all of our efforts. So even though we eventually learn that, I don't run the whole universe, I can't create things, I can't control things beyond my control, right? We only learn that by trying to control everything and trying to do everything. It's like that's a process of us as a man, as a person, that I feel a great responsibility for my family, for my friends, for things that I feel our people are expecting of me, and I expect of myself. And so I can't let myself off the hook. I have to try my very hardest. So in some ways, I hate to say that, but it's like I'm stupid in that area. It's like I have to run that rat wheel till I'm utterly exhausted. And then I start to realize that maybe some of my efforts really in certain areas, trying to do things, really weren't accomplishing anything. Rather, it was just maybe ego, pride, maybe lack of knowledge, whatever it was, maybe the way I thought things should be done in the past. And then it gives me, now when I exhausted myself, now I have a clearer view. And actually, because I'm past my own limitations, now I realize that I have to rely on God. I have to have faith in God, the universe, because what can I do? I can't move mountains. I can't control things beyond my control. So that path to more faith that leads you to being able to do things in your life that you never thought you could do, it still requires that we put all of our effort and all of our motivation into it. And maybe we don't know what we're doing all the time. Maybe we're not sure 100%, but our intention is getting more and more sharp and more focused, and we're trying. And then if we're able to see where what's working and what's not, and what's beyond our control, what's within our control, we're able to focus our efforts more and more to where we're actually really on the crux of making progress. And having faith in God and the universe and things beyond our power can only be achieved sometimes by when we're totally exhausted in all of our efforts. And so you can't not do nothing, but you learn that you don't have to do as much. It's going to be a little confusing. It's almost like that Wu Wei kind of thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answered your question.
Getting that bound, no, it exactly articulated what my point was in talking about that experiment. How, yes, the belief in yourself, the knowledge that you've gotten through the similar situations before will carry you very far, more than just sheer effort will. In the beginning, you don't know, you're just, that will take you a step further, but I believe the ultimate step is that faith. And that, and you demonstrated that very beautifully. So thank you. And I also just want to piggyback on what you said and simplify it, is God only helps those that help themselves. So yes, we need to work and drive and go all in. And then when we can't go no more, God will pick up the tab. So now I want to go back to something that you said, something that I did remember, because I didn't forget this. Although that purple marker on the ripped up envelope was totally confusion, something that I didn't forget that you spoke of, because it was very, very interesting to me, and interesting on many levels. You said, and you just said it here again, but on the phone you said it a little differently. I'm only interested in doing things that work. But on the phone, you said something to the effect of, and please correct me if I'm mistaken, I'm not interested in any religious practices unless they have practical purposes. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was very, very interesting. And I think that a lot of people have that same sort of argument within their mind. Like, okay, these are my religious beliefs. These are the things that I need to do to stay diligent within my faith. But these are the things that actually work for me and make my life better. And it's sort of, I guess I feel like now we're even more on the same wavelength, because you've asked me so many times, how do you choose? How do you feel that you have the power to choose what's truth in this world? And I just did, and I always have, because I needed to do that and pick pieces out of certain religions and faiths and philosophies to be able to make my life okay. Because no specific path held what I needed. And now I sort of see you say the same things, and it does make me happy, because I found that is beneficial in my life, for me to streamline, simplify out all these things and just use what works, what actually is making a difference in my day-to-day life. The Buddha says this: don't do things because I tell you to do them. Do the things because you do them and they make a difference in your life. But he asked you do them for 30 days. That way you can actually feel the difference. Like when I started praying, I did for 30 days. I started meditating 30 days, and I'm still doing all of it because I noticed the day-to-day difference. And still to this day, I love finding new things. I'm interested very much in things that I haven't found yet that could be potential level ups, potential secrets to tap into the universe or tap into this limitless source of energy that's available to us. You know, a lot of it's cold water showers and breath work and different things, but I'm always have my eye out. But when I try these new things, they're not sustained if I'm not noticing a difference, you know, because it's work, it's effort, and I have a lot to do, and we all have a lot to do. Yeah. So I do think it's important that we streamline to the practical practices that absolutely make the difference in our day. Things that give us more energy, things that make us happier, things that make us more joyful, things that leave us in the moment more often. So if you care to elaborate a little bit on what you meant by that, I'd love to hear it.
Well, one thing I learned in the last couple of years that I think that I've stopped pursuing because it was basically bonking my head against a wall is summed up in the term, and this might be offensive to someone, and I hope I can explain it properly, but ignorance is bliss. The idea that if you don't know something is incomplete. In this context, say, did I tell you a story about that? I audited a class, my wife, she was taking a philosophy class in college. And I think I was the only person that really wanted to be there. I think everybody else had to be there because of their degree, right? But my wife knows I like philosophy. So I went in, and me and the teacher were like best buddies. Like, I was reading all the books, we were talking, it was the best thing. And but he said there's this guy named Francois, and he's a like 16th century or 14th century pig farmer in Europe, right? And he lives on a farm, and he has his pigs, and he's probably only going to live to about 35, 40. He's never going to travel. He's never going to be anything other than a pig farmer. He's got his wife and his kids, about 13 of them. Half of them are probably going to die. That's within childbirth. That's what happens, you know. They don't worry about going to the hospital. They're not worried about bills. Their Lord is up on the hill, and they have to pay their taxes. They go to church, and he tells them right and wrong, whether you go to heaven or hell. Now, that dude doesn't worry about half the crap we do. Is he happier than us? Is he more peaceful and joyful? Maybe. He might be, man. But the point is, ignorance is bliss. I can't be him. I can't ignore scientific understandings. I can't ignore the facts of the modern world. So most of my life, I've been searching for a sense of peace and purpose and all these things and who I am, my identity. And the thing is, I've always longed for some ignorance, some way to just blindly follow something, to get into something, to be encompassed by something. So that way I don't got to think, right? I could just be in it and get all the comfort from that. But my problem is my mind, oh, okay, God exists, huh? Oh, this is why. Well, then why do we do this? Why do we do this? What's this for? Why is that like that? How do these two things, ideas, mix together? And those are inconvenient questions. Those are questions that are not conducive to ignorance. You can't have this bliss of ignorance if you're questioning things and looking. And I mean, and part of that may be unnecessary, but I can't help of wanting to know what I'm doing is really authentic and has some kind of, I guess what in this context, like you said, what's authentic? Something that actually works. If my goal is to be more peaceful, more joyful, and more generous and more grateful, then is what I'm doing working towards that? If it's not, then I don't want to do it. So therefore, I can't envelop myself in ignorance. Another good example is I started doing yoga last year, right? And at first I thought I'd get into the religious practice of it. It'd be some kind of spiritual thing. And I just, that part doesn't work for me. But when I stopped doing it, I missed it because my body did not feel as good. So I don't know about the spiritual aspect of it, but I'll tell you something. I was just doing it before we talked. You feel great, man. You feel like you took some kind of drug after you did all that stretching and stuff. Your body feels great. And so I said, I don't care about the spiritual practice. I got nobody to impress. So that's how I feel about that. I feel that, I don't want to do something. I can't be ignorant of bliss. So I stopped trying to, sometimes I'll envy people that have a faith in whatever religion it is. And they get so much comfort from it. And they get so much peace from it. but they'll say things and do things that don't make any kind of actual logical sense. And so my mind will start to tear them apart. And even in the past, I'll be honest with you, I don't know, I kind of intruded on those people's peace by asking them questions and putting thoughts into their mind and doing things that made them question why they believe what they believe and what they were doing. And it might have been, maybe I wasn't trying to be harmful, but it probably didn't help them any, because they really weren't looking to explore that. They weren't looking for that. They were happy with what they had. And who am I to say if that brings them peace, right? If that works in their life, makes them a better person without them knowing it, it's just the actual ritual makes them more like the person they want to be. Well, who am I to go mess that shit up for them? Just because I got to go through all these hoops to try to get to the same spot. So I don't even know if I'm necessarily better off, but I know that that doesn't work for me. I can't go to that. So I have to try to find things that work, practical things. And so that's what I've been doing, things that are working, things that make me more peaceful, that calm me down, that make me understand my place and in the universe and where I'm at, and make me love and be more generous and more grateful than I was. So I don't know, that just sums it up for me. I just kind of stopped pursuing things that don't work for me.
I mean, I think we all could do a lot of that, because a lot of times when we get into things, whether it be good or on the bad side of life, just like you said with the yoga, you thought, oh man, maybe I'll get all into this, be some sort of spiritual experience. And I guess I could relate. I felt the same way when I started getting into yoga. I just loved it so much. Like you said, I felt such a huge difference in my body. And I would see some of the experienced meditators and I would go, man, this is pretty cool. But ultimately, it didn't work for me. And a lot of the mystic, spiritual stuff in the end didn't work for me in totality.
Right.
I still, use aspects of it. Like I do yoga almost every day. And even if the day where you would say, okay, this was a day where I almost didn't do it, I still stretch. Yeah. Because it benefits my body so much. And something that I believe about yoga is that it is an actual science. Like Sadhguru says this, and I believe it wholeheartedly, that the gurus in India were working for thousands and thousands of years to perfect that science of the body and that science of the breath. And that is something that, in my opinion, they accomplished, my friend. Now, can we all reach samadhi and become enlightened? I don't know. That's not for me to answer. If anyone wants to pursue that, then please. It is a beautiful way of life. And every time I look at it, because I follow a lot of these kind of people, I do view it in a sort of a very admirable light.
Sure.
But in the same respect as I view my Christian friends and my Muslim friends and my Buddhist friends, I love all these aspects of what they're doing. Sometimes I wish that I could wholeheartedly be a part of something like that without all those questions that you're talking about, those pesky questions, poking holes in everything. And I'm not saying that any of those religions can't be scientifically and theoretically proven. I don't want to, go there. We're talking about what works in our lives.
Yeah.
A lot of times this inability to fit makes us be wavering in the wind. So I'm speaking to those people, people like me and you, people that are asking too many questions, people that are poking holes in things that don't need holes poked in them.
Sure.
You could still find faith and spirituality in your life and make it work for you. And we talk about that often as well, as God as a representation, God as a moral compass, God as an idea. And I've stated many times, and I'll state again, how God can impact your life even if you don't believe. If you do these practices that we're talking about, you'll begin to notice a difference. And then maybe when you notice a difference, you'll begin to have some faith. But let me ask you this. This is a quick one, and then we'll move on. Sometimes when I'm doing these practices, I do a lot. I do a lot of stuff, man. And I'm 44 years old. But oftentimes when I'm doing these practices, I can start to feel very silly. When I'm hopping in the cold shower, it's so cold sometimes. Here in Florida, it was 48 degrees last night, here in Southwest Florida. So I took that cold shower this morning. Oh, man, was it? When I take them in the summer, it's like it still wakes you up, gets you going, but it's nothing like it is now. And I take cold showers in Alaska. So, I have a pretty high tolerance for cold, although I'm sure it dims down a bit. I haven't been in a cold weather place for a long time, but I got to get going. And at 48, and I still feel silly. And then maybe I'll sit to meditate, and I'll have my, my third eye point in the sky, like Sagar would tell me, and I'm, doing my practices, and I'll really get to feeling it. I'll feel that unworldly feeling that lets me know that there is something else going on here, man.
Right.
That there is so much more outside my understanding, and I want to know more about it. I want more keys, I want more keys, unlock more secrets. I'm greedy that way.
Right.
And, when I got to use the word greedy, I do check myself on it because I want more. I want more out of life. So when I hit these points, sometimes I start feeling, who are you? What are you doing? What do you think you're going to be enlightened, dude?
Yeah.
And then I say, don't minimize what you're doing.
Right.
You feel silly. You don't have to take yourself so seriously. A lot of times I meditate and I'm taking myself so seriously in the moment. My eyes are squinting and I have to go, Robert, this is about relaxation, oneness, embracing the universe, not this striving effort where you're tensed up. All life, as much as you may think, if you hear me speak, as much as I love intensity, vibrancy, and energy, there are times where that's not the necessary ingredient in what you're doing. Right. Sometimes it's calmness, it's fluidity. And so I can take myself not too seriously, but then sometimes I still feel silly, but I tell myself to stop. I go, stop. Because you are striving, whether you're practicing conscious non-doing, you're still displaying effort. Mm-hmm. And I want to really talk about this because a lot of people start putting out effort in life, in different endeavors, in different things, in things that may not be popular or heard of in your area. And then people get to talking. People want to judge you. People want to make you feel like that's not hip or that's not cool or, who are you to be trying those things, no matter what it be, trying to better yourself in any way. A lot of people like to throw shots. But here's what I'm telling you. Whether you're doing yoga and you're falling down, whether you're working out and you're maybe getting injured on the first day a little bit, you make mistakes, whether you're praying and you feel silly because you just don't believe yet, whether you're meditating and you may feel a tingle of something different and you go, you're just you, so you discount it. Don't minimize your effort because one thing that the universe understands is effort, my friends. And when you're continually putting forth that effort every day, no matter if you're falling down, no matter if you're making mistakes, no matter if you're being silly with it, the universe will respond. And the universe is also a little silly. Because if you live this life and you don't think the universe plays games, then I don't know what you're paying attention to. So have fun with it. Be silly. But don't let that feeling minimize your effort because the universe responds to effort. And definitely don't let haters make you feel silly or that your effort doesn't mean something. Because I'm here to tell you, and the universe will tell you if you pay attention enough, that it absolutely does. Keep putting in that effort here in 2024.
Yeah. Well, I kept thinking about, and of course, whatever you're reading or whatever I'm kind of practicing at the time could influence but I kept thinking about how telling yourself, talking about the I or the ego, this ego, this who I think I am. When you start to investigate that, especially from looking at Eastern philosophy, Eastern religion, it's a lot different than Western society, Western culture, how we think about ourselves. And, I was just listening to some Alan Watts today, and been reading a lot of Taoism, but just the idea that ego is a construct. It's just a construct. It's like that I'm separate from my body, that I'm separate, like that my brain is more important than my liver, or my feet are more important than my hands, or even that my thinking, my thoughts are me, because I'm not separate from my outside, from my environment. I need air and I need, I'm not separate from even the other people that exist. We're all part of it. And I think that, like you can really take yourself too seriously, or you could take your effort as meaningless. One of the dangers, like you said, like here's my scale. When my mind goes one way, it goes all the way to the top or all the way to the bottom very quickly. And I realize it about myself. So I think the other people are probably more balanced in this area. So I have to be careful. But like when I start to do something, I have to infuse it with meaning and purpose, right? Or I won't do it. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I feel something doesn't have purpose or meaning, it's nothing to me. So I can very easily think everything I'm doing is meaningless. Oh, this game I'm playing is meaningless. Oh, my job is meaningless. Oh, these conversations, my podcast is meaningless. Your podcast is meaningless. Our friendships are meaningless. Everything's meaningless. What does any of it mean? It's all meaningless. And you can do that if you want. You could really go down that road to where everything you're doing is meaningless. If you think that other people or the world determines its meaning, if it's based on some religious belief, or it's based on the people, your family, your friends, and what they think of what you're doing, well, they can mess with you. And you could just, if you take their opinions or everybody else's opinion about everything, then everything can be meaningless. But the truth is that I can make whatever I'm doing have meaning and purpose. If it means something to me, I have to be clear about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. If it means something to me, it's important. And I think, you could make it too important too, like you said, where, like, oh, I know the secret of the universe, and only, you can only meditate like this, and I do it the right way, and I do it better than everybody else. And everybody else is, oh, they're just deficient, man. I wish they knew the secrets like you can go down that road too. And I think that we're constantly, but that's all a function of the ego, of thinking that I am who people think I am, or I am the story I told myself, or I am what I used to be, or what I've done, or what I haven't done, or my failures or my successes. Like all that is fucking bullshit, man. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like it's a big waste of time worrying about all that crap, and you think about yourself or everybody else thinks about you. That's all just confusion and thoughts. And you can look at them and you can just throw them away, and you can say, I want to meditate because I like to meditate, and it makes me peaceful, and it makes me experience a wonder and I don't have to fucking explain it. I'm excited too, but I don't have to explain it. Why should I have to explain it? Why do I got to have some dogmatic answers about it? Why do I got to explain it to this person over here or make it fit with your religious? I don't really care. Do your thing. I'll do mine. And I think that in all that, we can have meaning and purpose in our life because I choose for it to have meaning and purpose. And because I believe ultimately when we trust in the universe, we trust that we know that we are supposed to do right, that, being loving and caring and kind and generous, all those things, and joyful, all those things are the right things to do. And the things that we do that make us more like that are the right things to do. And if someone doesn't like the way I dress or the way I meditate or the kind of religion I want to be involved in, I want to call myself a Buddhist and then a Hindu, and I want to be a Christian and a Jew, and I want to do all these different things. I can do whatever I want. It's nobody else's business but my own. And I think that this ego, this worrying about what people think of me or what I think of myself or the story I've told, that can be very hindering to who we really are. And we place ourselves in these imaginary boxes that we can't get out of. And we did it to ourselves. It's crazy. The limits we put on ourselves and our mind. It's so exciting. You mentioned enlightenment. It's like, I believe 100% what I've heard about Zen, what the Zen Buddhists, this idea of, what is it, Satori, this instant enlightenment. It's so simple. It's right there, but we make it so hard to have it. And that we put ourselves through all these obstacles trying to get to this thing that's right in front of us. And I do believe that. That's one thing I definitely have come to believe with all my heart, that understanding that you are one with everybody and everything you are in, that you are your body and everything is all one together and you're part of all of it, and that there's a balance in the whole universe it's right there in front of us. And I think that thinking of myself as separate from everything else, this ego is very destructive. And my attachments to worldly things, what I want. And that's just, I think that's the key out of that. And I say, screw people and everybody else that thinks what I do is silly. I don't really care. It's, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for myself. And also, you know, the hell with my negative thoughts that I tell myself. I don't know where they are or what they come from, but that's not me. You know, I can really take that stuff and throw it away. So I agree with you 100%. But that's, we put all this bullshit in our head to try to, I don't know what we're doing. I think making it hard, we feel like we have to make it hard for ourselves. Anyways.
Well, being aware of it's the first step, and you are. And I always say this, whatever you're doing is your own business. You're not harming anyone, then it's absolutely 100% your business, man. So I applaud you for moving in that direction. And I want to get to the last topic. We got 10 minutes left, and I think it's a good one. Have you ever heard of James Allen?
James Allen? I don't think so.
You probably have. I know you heard of the book As a Man Thinketh. It's one of the very best books that I've ever read, and it's very short, so it's very powerful in that way. And it's something that I have saved, waiting for my kids to be old enough to be able to understand it, and it's going to be one of the mandatory reading books in my house. In this book, he describes, in the most powerful way that I've ever heard explained, the power of thought, the power of your mind. And I'm looking over here. I'm going to turn. I see if I can turn it. And I'm looking at these pine trees the other day. You know, a lot of people don't know this about Florida because everybody sees the pine trees. Most of those palm trees are not indigenous. There's actually only a couple that are. They're planted here to make it look great. One of the native trees are these pine trees that you see all around me, and they're beautiful, majestic trees. They truly are powerful. I love being surrounded by them. It makes the space that I'm getting to create in and work out in and raise my kids right now until we move to Tampa Bay in a few months, a very special place for me. So I get to looking at these trees because I pay attention to nature. I think that it's something that we all should do more, is pay attention to nature, understand that we are nature, and really get immersed in our natural world, because that's when we're going to really get in tune with the universal harmony and energies and ourselves. Get away from the screens, get away from the TVs, get away from the people with all these influences upon you and all these distractions. And when you get out and you pay attention to nature, it's just you, it's just nature, and you are nature. So it just really creates an amazing environment to create and raise your kids like I'm doing here. I get to looking at them and I get to thinking. See, I mean, you can't see it. I'm not going to turn the camera again, but as these pine trees reach to their highest point, they're continually trying to be dragged down by vines, plants, everything growing around them, growing on top of them, clawing up their branches, trying to pull them down. They got woodpeckers pecking away, driving holes in them, but they're still reaching for the sky, man. Every force of nature is trying to drag these pine trees back down to the ground, and they refuse. So I got to thinking about this line in As a Man Thinketh that relates to this story I'm telling about pine trees. It's probably where everyone's dropping off the podcast. And he says, what's the exact quote? Let me paraphrase. At some point, when you reach a certain point, knowing the power of thought, knowing the power of you, although you understand that you are being oppressed, you can no longer identify with the oppressors or the people that are being oppressed, which you may be part of either one of those. Because in life, me and many people can get caught in this, they're always trying to drag me down, you know? I mean, you could just look at your paycheck and see all the money taken out of it and go, oh my God, they're never, they're always trying to drag me down. This person does that. That person does that. It's a very dangerous game.
Yeah.
Because although a lot of those things are very valid, they're minimizing your power and they're diminishing your spirit. And when you reach that space, like James Allen is talking about, he does another amazing book called The Golden Pathway or Golden Gateway. James Allen, he's a great guy, great author, very powerful. But you can use that and that blame game, and it will put you in that space where you're never going to make any progress. Or you could be like that mighty pine. Everyone clawing all over you, climbing up you to try to get ahead, stepping on you, trying to get ahead, pecking at you, drilling holes in you. But you just refuse to lose, man. And that's what we're doing in 24, man. We are no longer identifying with the people that are trying to keep us down. We're no longer identifying with the people that are crying, poor me, and all those, some of those things may be valid. I'm not going to be stuck in a space of stagnant energy ever.
Yeah.
So I look at these mighty, majestic creatures. I call them creatures. I know that trees are sentient beings. They talk to each other through root systems. Look into it. So do mushroom and mycelium. And I want to be like that mighty pine in 2024. No longer identifying with the people that are putting me down. No longer identifying with the people that are crying victim. I'm moving in a different space.
Yeah.
And it's one of longevity and it's one of success. So let's wrap it up with your final thoughts on that.
It means me, yeah, man. I want to be that tree too, man. I want to be that too. But you know what made me think about that? A way to, I think you're so right about not identifying with whatever, you know, with one group or the other that's the oppressors or oppressed, but rather letting that go and moving forward. I think one good way to do that is to think of yin and yang, you know, this balance, everything balanced in the universe. All those, the woodpeckers, the vines, everything, even even man's encroachment on nature, that's all there. One way to put it in its place instead of, you know, like sometimes it can really bum people out when that there's evil in the world, that people have hurt them. You know, I think one way of looking at that is that all that's unfortunately, even bad things are necessary. They happen. And I don't think that tree would ever be where it's at unless it had the whole biosphere and the whole nature that it existed in. So that tree's job is to grow, keep growing and reaching, right? But if it gets caught up in wondering why all this vines are on it, why the woodpeckers are chopping it, you know, why man's chopping his buddies down, all that, then it will stop growing. It can really hurt its forward momentum. But I think one way to look at the people in your life that are difficult, the people that hurt you, the people that try to hold you back, the people that have hurt you in the past, the people that have helped you, all those people, it's yin and yang. It's a balance. You can't have your growth without times of stagnation. You can't have, you can't be grateful unless people have made you feel like you needed something. You know, you can't, those people, even though you don't ever want to do evil, they're still necessary. And that's why they're here, because there's always balance. And I just got to keep looking forward and growing and realizing that even the bad things that happen to me were there for a reason. And even the things that are making it harder for me are lessons for me to learn.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you actually just helped me expand upon that point. I've been holding it in the cup for a while, just glancing at them trees out here in Southwest Florida, man. And we're grateful to be here. We're grateful to be alive here on this beautiful day, New Year's Day, 2024, man. And I'm super grateful for Tony for coming on, man. I always treasure our conversations. Thank you, brother.
Me too.